Well, if it stops, just let me know. All right, so we are here for a talk on human needs and the personality. Now, was anyone here for my talk earlier today? I don't think so, right? I think we were. Oh yeah, you were. There we go. Okay,
You recorded that?
I was looking that way. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
and
good.
you were as well. I remember we were there. So, absolutely. And George, so I covered a little bit of this, but now I'm going to be going a little bit deeper. So, to set the stage, we're all here studying human design. Human design is absolutely yin, form knowledge. It is about how the form operates, how the form works, how the form moves through the world when the form meets resistance. It's one of our main value propositions in human design, is that it will help you eliminate the resistance that you meet in your life. It's like you see a projector really living their design. They're smooth like butter. They just move through the world. They glide through the world. Things come to them effortlessly. You see the projectors who are struggling in it, the whole world's out to get them. They spent 15 years trying to make it in the music industry, and nobody recognizes good music, and nobody knows what's what. And you see any of the, oh yeah, please come on in. You guys are welcome to grab any spot you're able to. So, but this is the fundamental area of study of human design, is where do we meet resistance, and where are we able to successfully navigate life through correct decision making? How are we able to use our decision making to essentially navigate very complex situations that often take us very far out of our comfort zone? So what is the comfort zone then? What is the us that gets uncomfortable? Well, that's the passenger. That is the personality. And my whole series of talks this year, unlike most years, for 1 year I did a whole series of talks on the conditioning forces. Other years I do talks on substructure or rave cosmology or base or different aspects of the design. This year I decided to focus entirely on the personality. And in focusing on the personality, what I'm really focusing on is the passenger, the thing that actually gets uncomfortable, the thing that actually gets triggered, the thing that actually is bothered by the unfolding of the life. So this is kind of an interesting point. I mean, when we come into human design, we start to see the world a different way. And one of the things we notice is that people who've been in design for a very long time are able to navigate situations very well. And they're able to move through situations very well. And then you say, well, it's all no choice, so what's the difference? It is no choice, but the difference is they have awareness. They've brought awareness to that situation. So they're no longer interfering with the decision-making process that will allow them to successfully navigate that. In other words, they have grown. They have had psychological growth and development, and not even just one lifetime's growth. It's actually lifetime after lifetime of the education of the passenger in passenger consciousness and the awakening of the passenger to ever greater levels of awareness that allow the form to operate correctly, essentially. That's the whole point of it. If awareness didn't change anything, we wouldn't be learning human design. I mean, it gets into this funny question where people are like, well, it doesn't really matter anyway. There's no choice anyway. This kind of defeatist, fatalist attitude. Well, sure, but if you learn something, you don't have to learn it again. And even learning something about your design, learning how your design works, learning about your inner authority, you're right, there's no choice in it. You can't unsee it. You might even wish you could go back to the way before, but you can't. You're stuck with this new way of being. You've been robbed of your old safety nets and all of these things we've had. So today when we talk about human needs, the title is Human Needs and the Personality. I'm not talking about human needs in the body, human needs in the body. The body needs food, air, the body needs water. I'm not talking about those needs, right? I'm not talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs of shelter, right? I'm talking about the personality's needs, the needs of what we as passengers need to feel comfortable and to feel safe and to feel all of the things. I mean, these are fundamental needs. So what it's going to come down to is we're going to actually realize that what we think we need is not always what we need, right? What we think we need, the needs we're aware of, are actually a small fraction of the needs. And there are many frameworks for looking at this, but I'm going to be using a system called the Objective Personality System. I mentioned it earlier. Marissa and I have been studying this system for about 7 years now. It's a good Saturn cycle there. That's actually how we first connected, and she was recently in my objective personality class. And the objective personality system, like human design, is very eclectic and draws from many different sources. And this source is actually Tony Robbins, which is funny to me because he's a guy that I've always kind of rolled my eyes at. But I think, you can take from any source. I mean, the point is, we're not here to be mystic snobs. We're here to see who has actually developed anything meaningful and touched on anything meaningful. And it's pretty obvious to me that he has, that he was able to take complex psychological concepts and reduce them he probably has channel of structuring or something. I don't know his body graph. Side note, Chetan Parkin and Carola Eastwood, who are here at the conference, have mentored Tony Robbins. He's actually, some people go to Tony and then he goes to them. So, I mean, just skip right to the top, right? So anyway, but he seems like a pretty nice guy. He's a pretty cool guy. Seems like a real straight shooter, good guy. So in any case, he's developed 6 ways of looking at the human needs, 6 needs that he describes that are very nicely structured, nicely encapsulated. So we're going to be going through each of them. Before we do, I want to give just a little more context, and then we'll look at each of the needs, and we'll look at the 2 that are in binaries, and then the 4 that are in binaries of 2s, and then we'll look at the 2 that are not in binary and ask ourselves where we fall on the spectrum here. But the point is not that some of us have some needs and some of us have others. We all have all the needs. The point is that the personality is structurally attuned to meeting some needs and avoiding others. And if you're following your strategy and authority, it is going to lead you to some very uncomfortable places where you're going to maybe even freak out or be triggered or be anxious or, all of these things around the worries of essentially not having the needs met that we're hooked on. It's almost like we become addicted to needs. And when we become addicted to needs, we have more than we need. I mean, look how much in this world we have more than we need. People have more food than they need, more wealth than they need, more. And that's what the personality wants. It always wants more, right? And so what we're doing with human design is essentially educating the personality so that it can learn to tolerate having less. It can learn to tolerate going into very uncomfortable places where we think we're dying. We think we're psychologically dying. We think we are having the worst possible outcome ever. And how did we end up here? And yet it's kind of like you're drowning and then you realize you can drink the water or something like that. It's like this strange transformation that occurs that we call surrender. So let's just talk about each of the needs. For each of these, we're going to look at the 2 pairs of needs, and then we're going to look at the 2 needs that are not in a pair, and essentially talk about how at the personality level, these are fundamental structures of the psyche that everyone fits into, and that no matter how many lifetimes you have and how far you've gone, we still get hung up on. It's like these are the fundamental limitations. It's like studying base theory, if you ever looked at base theory in human design. These are like fundamental structures. Well, this is the base theory of psyche, basically. Please, yeah.
Are you suggesting then that objective personality equals need?
Objective personality equals need, is that the question? What I'm suggesting is that objective personality is studying the passenger, the personality, right, not the body graph, and that the passenger has certain predilections that are so strong they can get to the point of addiction, right, and we can almost call these addictions that last millennia. Lifetimes of addiction, thousands of years of addiction. So you get a new life, you have a defined sacral this life, an undefined that one, a defined ego this, undefined, doesn't matter, you have the same addictions. It's like, I got a new playground, and I'm gonna go here. And you go to one place, but there's something there that the personality doesn't want to look at. It's the shadow that's cast.
So the needs, it seemed like you're identifying, we're doing objective personality, so we're going to look at Tony Robbins' needs, but they're not the same. The needs are
I'll explain how the needs, I'll explain how the needs fit in. So the objective personality system is very eclectic, just like human design. It brings together Jung's typology. It borrows from socionics, which is another personality system. It borrows from Myers-Briggs theory and the Grant stack. It borrows from the work of Tony Robbins, as I mentioned. Who else? I mean, there's probably a lot of other people. It's very eclectic. Who else?
Gorillas and monkeys. Yeah.
I missed it.
Gorillas and monkeys.
Oh, gorillas and monkeys. Yeah, primate psychology. Well, evolutionary psychology. That's one of the main things it looks at. I mean, evolutionary psychology is a very fundamental approach as well. It's like, let's see what our ancestors did. Let's see what their predilections were. Let's see how they behaved. I mean, there's certain fundamental behaviors that we call human behaviors that are actually primate behaviors. The difference between rest and play or activity, the difference between consuming or focused effort and doing, taking in versus putting out, and things like that. These fundamental dichotomies, information versus energy. I mean, these are some of the things we look at. So when it gets to the human needs, what we're going to basically see is that there are two dichotomies where we can only be on one or the other. Everyone thinks they're on 50-50 down the middle, and that's because the personality wants to be everything. Just like it wants to be every gate and have every channel and have every center defined, and it just fills all space. So when you first come into a personality system, I mean, I've had people literally say, well, this is a bad system because I'm all of these things. And I just say, well, if it were a bad system, it wouldn't work. But because it works, I think it's much more likely that a deeper look is necessary, right? And obviously when you're making any large buckets as well, it matters what we mean by these things. So let's look at one of the fundamental dichotomies of needs. We all have a need for significance, and we all have a need for connection and love. Significance is feeling needed. It's feeling special. It's the feeling you get that you're irreplaceable. There was an editor for the Baltimore Sun who famously quipped, he hadn't taken a vacation in 25 years. And he quipped, well, why don't I take a vacation? The first thing I'm afraid of is that the place would fall apart. And the second is it wouldn't. Significance. Yeah. He wanted to be important, right? And that addiction to being significant. If you're on the side of significance, then when a relationship falls apart, you say, well, at least I still have my work. It's very important work. When you are grieving and having lost, you say, well, that's really unfortunate I lost that loving connection, but that's not what I came here for. I didn't incarnate for loving connection. I incarnated to do something very important in the world, very significant. And at the extreme, this can turn to megalomania and narcissism and solipsism and a lot of other things. I mean, it's a pretty obvious statement that someone like Ra was on the significance side. Now, if I can include you, would you? Okay. Marissa's on the opposite side of that. She is on the connection love side. In fact, that's her dominant function in the terminology of personality typology. And so we would say that, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that Marissa doesn't have the need of significance. It means she doesn't prioritize the need of significance, right? Would you comment on that at all, how you've experienced it?
I mean, I think that's pretty succinctly put. Like, it's definitely lower on the stack. It's just something that if I get significance or if I find it, it's there, but that's not what I'm going after necessarily.
Or it may even be filtered through the higher need of connection and love. What I found, my mother as well is somebody who's in the connection love. Here, I believe your phone is in here, sir. Oh. Good. Yeah, I got it for you. So the connection. Oh. Yeah, you guys need anything, or are you good?
No,
yeah.
I mean...
Your phone, yeah. Well, your talk was at 5.
I understand that.
Okay, sorry. No, I understand. Okay, well, you can grab your phone. If it's not there...
It's not there.
If it's not there, then it's in... I think it's in the front room. I can get it in the front room for you. I think it's in a box in the front room or something.
Now, yeah. What's the talk now?
The talk is on human needs. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, okay. So...
Your mother, you were saying, has also significant, she has love and connection.
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing is, you can see that the needs, we all have all the needs. I'm a significance person. I have the need for love and connection. Do I prioritize it? No. To my detriment. What has human design done? It has brought me through sacral response to a place where I am way out of my comfort zone and going into places of love and connection and leaving behind my addiction to significance. Because what does human design do? It takes us to where the life is. The life. What some people don't realize, just as a little tangent, and we'll get back to it, is that Ra didn't invent strategy and authority. He didn't make it up. It's not something that he created. He structured it But what it is a structuring of base theory. Has anyone here studied base theory? Any base theory fans here? You know a bit? Okay. Anyone? You base theory? No, a little bit? Okay. Okay, well, base theory is a very fascinating aspect of human design. One of the things that we discover is that the dimension of mind is fully removed from the dimension of the movement of life. They're actual polarities. And the mind cannot reach movement. But the mind can connect to the body. We can know when we're hungry. We can know when it feels good or bad. We can know when we have a sacral response or a splenic hit or emotional clarity. And it also connects to the design, which is the unconscious. We can know when our unconscious is trying to tell us something and give us a message. We can know when our body or our sort of unconscious is presenting, like in our mind's eye, like people who are inner vision, they close their eyes and they see this flood of images and things like that. Or Gate 64 does that. And each of those dimensions, the dimension of design and the dimension of body, are both connected to the movement of life. So strategy and authority is literally a codifying of a methodology for the mind to be in touch with the unconscious and the body, which are both directly in touch with the movement of life. Because life is always moving. Life force energy is always changing. Life is always going somewhere new. And what worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. And what satisfied one day may frustrate the next. What quenched the thirst one day won't do it the next, and so on. And so what we discover is essentially the personality's type is really a set of needs that are prioritized. It's a set of needs that are prioritized and the rest are ignored. And whether you're doing Jungian shadow work and journaling or dream analysis or going deep into the unconscious or doing meditations or anything at all, it's some step in the journey of discovering the totality of your own psyche. Unlike the body graph where we learn about what is the not self, the others, through our openness, when we learn about the needs we haven't had met, we're not learning about other people. You know, I have unmet needs around love and connection. Marissa has unmet needs for significance. When she goes deep into her need for significance and doubles down on that and does things that she feels are very important, and when I double down on my need for love and connection and realize that that actually is an important thing for me, I don't diminish it and minimize it, I'm not going away from myself. I'm going deeper within to my true self. I'm actually becoming more fully myself. So this is one of the differences of the body graph versus the psyche. The body graph, if you take somebody who has all the opposite gates of you, that's a completely different person. Okay, that's a totally different person. If you take somebody who has the opposite human needs of you, the ones they prioritize, that's you. That's the part of you you've ignored. That's the part of you deep within that you've rejected that, funny enough, following strategy and authority brings you to, because it's full of life. It's vital, and sometimes it's clamoring for attention. It's like people have wars being waged inside of them that they're oblivious to, and they're going through life numb. And when you start following strategy and authority, it starts to bring you to that place where you see the battlefield going on within you of the conflicting needs, because they do conflict. Make no qualms about it. I'm not trying to say you can have it all. I mean, to have a sense of significance, you have to be willing to sacrifice sometimes everything. You do sacrifice the connection. You do sacrifice the love for significance. To really go into connection and love, you sometimes have to sacrifice what you have felt is your meaningful job in the world. You know, these are sacrifices. They are binaries. And yet, if we don't do it, we end up in very uncomfortable situations of confusion. An example, I'm a significance person. That means I most likely have unmet needs for love and connection. Well, what happens if I don't meet those needs? I'm doing all this significant work, but I'm pretending to myself and others that I don't need love and connection. Okay, well, eventually that's going to catch up with me. It's going to catch up in the unconscious, which is fighting tooth and nail for love and connection because I've been starving it for those things, is going to start looking for it in the wrong places. This is where you get cult leaders. This is where you get teachers sleeping with their students. This is where you get people doing significant work who are ignoring their love and connection needs and are essentially getting them vicariously or getting them the wrong way. It goes the other way. Connection and love people put all of the significance onto their loved ones. Oh yes, I'm doing something significant. I'm raising a kid. And my kid is such a significant, special person that I'm going to get all of my significance needs through my loving connection to my kid. or my partner, or my organization, or my group. So you can see that these are really fundamental dichotomies, and I'll move on to the next one, but I guess the question now is, which one are you on? Are you a significance person or a connection love person? And we can talk a little bit more about it just to help while we contemplate, then I'll move on to the next. Significance is all about the self, and significance is all about what I want. As a significant person, I want. I leave the tribe behind. I leave others because I'm doing something important. Ra left his family and was declared dead to go to Ibiza. He's a significance person. Why? Because he was in touch with the self. Connection love people, they're in touch with others. They have a frog in the pocket that narrates everything about their lives. Like, why did you say that? That was not the right thing to say. You hurt their feelings. You thought that this and this. I don't have a frog in the pocket. I crushed that frog in my pocket, whatever. No, but I should. That's my point. I need a frog in the pocket, right? So you can see how it's one of these funny things where I'm a self person. I'm using the word significance. I could equally use the word self. Connection people are other people. And we need to know this also so we don't shame them. As an example, there's a dominant significance person who's a quad-right, emotional projector who's always talking, with only individual circuitry, who's always talking about individuality. Well, he's a significance guy, so he's always saying, this is about what you want, and going your own way, doing your own thing. Well, there's somebody I know who's actually at the conference, is even speaking at the conference, who's a connection person, like you, Marissa, or like you, Mom, And connection person, only individual circuitry, lots of right variable, feels totally shamed, like you're not self, because you don't relate to all this stuff about beating your chest over what you desire and going your own way. Well, guess what? This guy's a significance person. That's the easiest thing in the world for him. He needs to actually go into the connection love side, which is like, hey, you're right variable. Let's talk about the receptivity part of it. Let's talk about the sort of the other side of that binary. But you can see that, someone knows a manifestor like Ra, who's a significance person. Then they do a reading for a connection love manifestor, and they're like, you're not self, you're so conditioned, you're putting others' needs before your own. You're so conditioned, you're putting yourself in other people's shoes all the time. It's like, that's not how it works. I'm a significance person, and most of my life I have rejected in myself and others the prioritization of seeing things from others' points of view. I am now learning the value of seeing things from others' points of view. I am now learning the value of connection and love and being willing to make sacrifices for that. I'm single definition. That's not easy for me. Single definition is kind of no compromises. There's 8 billion fish in the sea. Let's just keep looking. But that's also very much, the significance people are sort of always going to their lifeboat of, at least I'm doing important work. So some crushing, devastating loss happens, and they're like, well, I didn't come here to worry about relationships. I came here to do important work. What's funny is it's not even actually about doing important work. It's about feeling important. That's what the significance people need to realize. At the end of the day, they're addicted to the feeling they get, feeling special, feeling important. And what the connection folks need to know is that you need to feel special and important too. Because a lot of times connection folks will almost be horrified at that need, disgusted by it. It's abjection, this feeling like how gross to need to feel special or feel like what I'm doing is more important than what you're doing and more. Well, hey, maybe it is. Maybe you are doing very important work. Maybe you have a mission here that is more important than what somebody else's mission is, That's just the way it is. And so stomaching that and coming to terms with that and having the heart for that is a challenge for the connection people. You're a connection guy, James. We figured out he's lead play in the system. You're a connection guy. And yet, you've done a lot of significant work. Your music, very significant. Your work in rare books, very significant. Your spiritual practice, very significant. Your sharing, very significant. But at the same time, it's almost like whatever need we have as our fundamental need, we almost have to check it off the box of kind of well, I'm doing this for them. I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it. But what about you? Do you do things for yourself? That would be the hard thing, right? So the more you're on the significant side, the harder it is to do for others. The more you're on the connection love side, the more harder it is just to do something literally for yourself.
That's what you need.
Exactly.
Is the opposite.
Exactly. And that's what your strategy and authority will bring you to. So in a way, this is just raising awareness. When you notice it, you'll see what you're noticing. You'll have a name for it. Because I'm not saying you have to like artificially be like, okay, I have significance. I'm going to go like help 3 people today. I mean, sure, that might work. But I mean, it's more like you just notice it. Yeah, Cara.
So I mean, is the goal like then for both of them to exist in a balanced, simultaneous state, or is it to go from the first kind of most like, I guess, natural instinct to be one way or the other and grow into being?
It's a great question. The question is the goal for both to exist in a simultaneous state, or do we kind of grow to the opposite, like as a trajectory? I would almost say every day is a microcosm where I run it forwards. You could also run it backwards. Your personality type is like a script. And the script is basically you have to do this first and then you do the other things later. And if you can get through the needs that you feel like you have to do first, then you can relax your mind. So for me, I had to do these talks because I felt like I had some important, significant things to do. Or the maybe less charitable understanding of it, I'm addicted to feeling special and important, right? There's another way. It's like 6 of one, half dozen of another, right? There's a positive and negative version of it. But then what am I going to do after this? I'm going to go to the party and hang out and have a lot of connection and so on. If you're a connection person, maybe you come to HDHD, you connect with people, you go to lunch, you have a great time. Then you're like, okay, well, I did all that. What's missing? What's missing? Do an interview. Record somebody. Like, save it for posterity. You have important things to say. Say important things, right? What you see that nobody else sees is important. And cherishing and valuing yourself and putting yourself before others and above others and saying, I do think I have some important things to say here, that's a really healthy practice. So I have a few good practices here. One, comment? Yeah.
I was just going to say, I feel like the opposite need that you feel less of really I don't want to say more that you focus on it, but the more that grows, the more it enhances your primary need. Like if you had, if you're a connections person, like the more you grow that significance, the more you can bring to those connections that you have with others. And then the same thing with on the opposite side, like the more connection you have with other people, that'll bring more significance to what.
Right. Yeah. Like, who cares if you're important to like 2 people? You want to be important to. No, that's a great point. And I'll say that I realize you don't have a mic, so I should be repeating what Marissa just said for anyone listening back later is that they really enhance each other, and that if you're a connection person, if you do something that has a lot of significance, you can actually bring that to the connection and really help people and sort of get your validation cookie of, or your, you feel good because you've been able to really like sincerely help someone. And then as a significance person too, that growth allows you to have those needs met of significance. So I'm going to tell a few practical tips. We'll move on to the next dichotomy. I would say for the significance people, that's people like me. I realized, I do sometimes. I was just saying earlier, it's not like you need to say, artificially, I'm going to help 3 people today. But also there is sort of a, why not? Once your awareness changes, you can tell when you're faking it, and you can tell when it's real, and you can tell when you're experimenting and seeing what happens if you were to try to live a different way. What I wouldn't want is for someone to feel like, oh no, everyone's going to think I'm faking it, so I better just stay the way I am. Like, we almost make excuses to prevent growth, to be like, well, people will think that I was being fake before then if I'm different now. And it's like, no, people change. So at a personal level, while I was teaching this OPS class, I just started to notice, it wasn't really intentional, but I started to notice that I was always doing things for myself. And I was just kind of like, this is like shocking. Like, it's not the first time I noticed it, but it's almost like horrifying for a significance person just to really realize how much of the world really does revolve around them. It's almost like waking up to the Matrix. So I was going to my mom's house, and I was like, well, she's always doing so much for me. I'm going to do something nice for her. I know she likes coconut water. So I stopped at the store to get coconut water. Totally normal thing that connection love people do all the time. And then I was walking around the store, like kind of on autopilot, zombie, like automaton for like 5 minutes. And then I was like, I guess I just go check out. And then I was checking out, and I was like, what was I walking around for? I was like, oh, I was looking for something for me. but I didn't even know I was. It's just so automatic for me to get something for myself. I'm so unaccustomed to doing something for other people purely. Now, for Dreama, her practice as a connection love person, I say, go buy your favorite meal, go get your favorite thing. She always gets me something. She can't get herself something without getting, it's like I can't get something for someone else without getting myself a little treat. She can't get something for her without getting me a little treat. So, I mean, it's just, but that's okay. As far as the question you were asking, Kara, which is like, how is it? It's like both at once or one or the other. I kind of see it as like almost like a daily thing where we all have all the needs and we're not really going to be able to skip them. Like it's going to keep bugging us and we're going to like have this thing bugging us. So we might as well just do them. Now people experiment with it. Sometimes they try to do it backwards. They're like, you're a significance person, do the connection love need first. You're a connection love person, do something special first at the beginning of the day. I can't. I start the day, I kind of follow the order of my needs. And what I try to do is just rush through them, the early ones fast enough so that by like 10 p.m. I'm in my lower needs and I'm actually getting them addressed. So, I mean, but as far as, just being aware of it, it's like first is noticing which one you're on. Significance people, you really are going to devalue or undervalue connection and love for its own sake. It's going to almost be like, but what else is there? Like Ra was a significance guy. A testament to his growth and a testament to how much human design and the surrender to the form developed. He never once had a scandal with his students. He never once mixed his need for connection and love with his need for significance, as I was saying earlier. Pardon?
Linda, but I think there is something actually.
No,
Yeah, there's one.
no. Well, he was married for 25 years, so.
I know, but I don't. I mean, I'm not trying to drop any trauma or nothing. I'm a form.
Okay, once in 25 years is not that bad. Okay, in defense of the significance people, if he left, yeah. But no, but I'm just saying like, yeah, nobody's perfect. But I'm just saying like the fact that he was able to do such significant work as well as have a loving family and loving connections and actually be a really genuinely open person to others and so on is a testament to what a complete and whole person he was. And also probably having kids helps, if you're a significance person, it kind of pulls you into the need for connection and doing for others and things like that. So, okay, so that's the first dichotomy. That's sort of the self-other dichotomy. Some of us are just structurally oriented towards self. Some are structurally oriented towards others. If you are structurally oriented towards self, you're very much in touch with I want. So here's kind of this question. How do you tell? How do you tell someone is self? I want, I can, I'm allowed. They'll say this. They'll be like, I can change my mind. I can do this. Be like, oh, where'd Jonah go? Oh, he had some important thing to do. He left everyone behind. He went his own way. If I'm at a concert and people are like dallying, I'm like, hey, I'll catch up with you guys. Let's go off and do my own thing. Leaving the tribe behind. I'm allowed. I can. I want. I desire. Very strong in their desires. Doesn't matter if you have desire, motivation, or innocence, or what. But
Wouldn't the transpersonal kind of tell you?
I think not. I mean, here's the really interesting question is like, where is this in the body graph? I would say it's in the personality crystal, not even really in the body graph, because this is something I'd wager is the same life after life after life after life after life. It's not, I think it's actually goes back to the Big Bang. It's probably like what part of the fractal you're from. Like, are you from the connection neighborhood? Are you part of the desire neighborhood? Or something like that, right? It's like, it's some structural thing. And it's a great question. It's so primal and old, it's like nobody gets to be this way in one life. Nobody gets to be this self-centered in one life, okay? It's like 2,000 years of doing important work, right? Or nobody gets to be this good at connection and love in one life, right? So how do you tell somebody's on the desire side? You can literally, or on the self, well, either one. So I'm saying the self people, the significance people, I want, I can, I'm allowed, I desire. So you'll literally hear me say this. You'll be like, well, I can do this. Well, I can do this. I want this. And if you listen to me talk and ask me about what I'm most looking forward to, you'll hear a lot of I statements. How do you tell somebody on the connection side? A lot of we statements. A lot of I'm not allowed. A whole story of how they can't. Of how they could if only they didn't have the obligations to the others. A story of I wish I could, but I can't, so I won't. And it sounds very negative, but actually what they're getting in exchange for that is a we story. They're getting a we story. They're not in it alone. Yeah. They're actually able to sort of see themselves and others as part of a unit And, I would say most human design is sort of biased towards the significance people. And so that's going to be really good for all the love connection people. Why? Because they're going to be practicing all this stuff that Ra's saying, that's like how to get more in touch with yourself and how to get more in touch with your desires. I don't need to get in touch with my desires. I need to get in touch with your desires, okay? I need to get in touch with other people's desires because I'm so in touch with my desires and so oblivious to others' desires. A year later, after the relationship ends, I go, oh, they wanted that? That makes sense. I can see why they would want that. But I'm a year too late and $1 short, right? Because I'm so oriented towards this one way of being. Unless I'm able to keep up with life. And that's what human design gives you because, again, it aligns you to the life force energy. That's what strategy and authority is doing. When I was talking about base theory, I was saying Ra didn't make up strategy and authority. He saw it laid out graphically, visually, as the dimensions of base, and saw that mind had no way to connect to the movement of life, and saw that to get there, it was only channeled through the body or the unconscious. So he essentially developed a practice, in some sense, of getting access to the movement of life. And if you're really in your strategy and authority, you are keeping up with life as it's moving. And when life calls for significance, you do that. When life calls for connection, you do that. You go where life takes you. But when you're not, the mind is going along. It's like that Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, the only thoughts of turtle are turtle. That turtle's going turtle, 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 turtle. Well, I'm going significance, significance, significance. Is this important? Nope. Does this make me feel important? Nope. I'm going to keep going. And I'm totally bypassing my need for connection and love. And then later, I'm sitting around lonely and sad and frustrated, and I have no one around and all this stuff. And I'm like, why did I sabotage all of these relationships? Why did I throw it all away for this feeling? It's like the story of Faust or something, right? It's like the story of this, like, I got the intellect and I got the knowledge, but I don't have anyone to share it with. It's like David Foster Wallace. He must have been a significance guy. He in the biopic on him, there's a really sad part where he wins like the Nobel Prize for Literature, and he's like, but I had no one to share it with. Yeah. Like he devoted so much of his life to doing something important, and he's loved by millions, but not one other person, truly. Like he's loved by the millions, but he's not loved by the one that he would actually have that deep connection and love with. Yeah, Steve Jobs. Yeah, he's another. He is a good one. They've officially typed a lot of these people, and so I know Steve Jobs is a significance guy. And it's kind of fun if you get into this. They have a class every week, the folks who do the objective personality system, Dave and Jan Powers. And each week they collectively type somebody in 13 different dichotomies. And they actually kind of converge, so you get some validation that they really are that type. It's not just someone's opinion, because a bunch of people all get the same answer, and it's like way beyond chance for them to get that answer. Then they add them to the database. So you have this massive database of thousands of celebrities you can look up and be like, oh, that does make sense. That is a significance guy, or that is a connection person.
How would one participate in that group?
They have a monthly class. It's like $20 a month or something. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and I also they have a free Facebook. I mean, they're really cool people. There's like 3,000 people in the world into this system. It's like a very minor system.
They YouTube where they do segments.
Yeah, the YouTube is great. It's called Objective Personality, and you go on their YouTube. It's great. And I also I taught a class. Marissa was in my last class. I have another one starting in October. I'm not shilling for it. I will happily give the intro PDF to the last class to anybody who wants it that we wrote up for that class, and I'll share that, and you can go through them. Okay, I want to go to the next dichotomy. I know I'm going to try to wrap up by 7 so everyone can get to the, how are we? It's like 6:45. What are we at?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I have a good sense of time. That's actually one of the dichotomies. That's one of the dichotomies is the people that have a strong sense of space-time navigation versus people who are more like imagistic and kind of imaginal, and I'm more grounded in the space-time navigation. I want to leave a little bit of time for questions, but before I'll go with one other dichotomy just so you guys can think about it. So the first one I want you to think about, which are you prioritizing? Which are you ignoring? Are you telling a me story or a we story? Is your story I want or is your story I can't? Not bad. The I can't story is not bad. It's just the story of, the we. It's the story of the we, right? It's like self-affirming versus self-negating. And self-negating is not bad. I need to self-negate. That's the only way I can actually get to connection and love, is through a sort of, which I know is mind-blowing, right? We're in this like human design system where everything is like self-affirm, self-affirm, self-affirm. It's like, sure, but some people need to self-negate a little bit, Some people need to actually, because that's other affirm, right? Other affirm. So, yeah. Okay. So if this first dichotomy of human needs, significance, connection, is all about self versus other, the second fundamental dichotomy that we study is all about the past and the old and the familiar versus novelty and newness and variety. And we actually would call it the opposition between certainty and uncertainty / variety. So people who are addicted to certainty, if you're addicted to certainty, you have your way, you're narrowing down to your path, your way forward. You're kind of narrowing down because you want to eliminate all the chaos of too many options. You're very bothered by having too many options. It's not even like you're bothered by the chaos of doing too many things. It's just the possibilities, like too many possibilities. Something I had to realize that really blew my mind. I'm a variety person, if you can't tell. I'm an uncertainty variety person. And so prioritizing the need for uncertainty and variety, I prioritize the need for new. I'm addicted to new, shiny new. I'm chasing the new, a new pattern, a new system, a new relationship, a new form of art, a new video game, a new anything, right? I'm always doing new. What can we do this year at HDG we haven't done before? Let's all go do this now. Let's all go on hot air balloon rides. I love Burning Man because I have this like endless new, right? Until it gets old. And so this addiction to new and this rejection of the old, it's like a fish in water. I'm shocked at, before I had the vocabulary to really understand it, at just how much I was unbothered by having so many options and how I was almost shocked someone could be bothered. Example, my last long-term partner, she was a certainty person. I'm an uncertainty person. I had a lot of female friends around who were options. And she told me, Jonah, it feels like if I break up with you, all the women just take a step to the left. It's like you have all these women lined up and it's like you already be dating somebody new by next week. And it's actually not true. It's not true because she was also a connection love person. And because, as a significance person, significance variety, she's connection love, it's a match made in heaven, I guess. But I will talk a little bit about the match in a minute. But it's kind of like, it's challenging, but then it's also extremely rewarding because unlike when you're with somebody who has your opposite human design body graph, where they're drawing you away from yourself and conditioning you in the not self, when you're with someone who has your opposite needs in the personality structure, they're drawing you deeper within yourself. They're making you confront your shadow. They're making you confront the parts of you you've ignored. Look, I have an undefined solar plexus. I am not forced to confront parts of myself when I'm around a defined solar plexus. I have an undefined ego. When I'm around a defined ego, it's not forcing me to deepen into who I really am secretly. I really am undefined ego, But when I'm with somebody who has needs for love and connection and needs for certainty, that is forcing me to deepen into those parts of myself where I realize I've neglected those needs. I've sort of been like, who needs to get married? It's a piece of paper. There's no guarantees anyway in life. It's just but it's like, well, even if there's no guarantees, obviously, certainty is looking for guarantees. Obviously, it's still worth something. Obviously, there's some value there. I have devalued it and it's outside of my comfort zone. And yet, human design may bring me out of my comfort zone, and the vocabulary of personality typology isn't going to replace strategy and authority, but it is going to give you a vocabulary for understanding why you feel so uncomfortable there. And maybe putting your mind at ease a little bit and at rest a little bit so you can say, no, I have these needs too. So if there's one outcome of this, that's why I want you to question which needs you've been ignoring. I ignore my need for certainty. It feels amazing when I have certainty. It feels so good. You ignore your need for certainty too, big time. And it's like when we finally do have the certainty, we're like, why didn't I do this 5 years ago? Why didn't I just it's so nice to just have it settled. It's like we kind of have this almost assumption that we can just have endless options and that there's no invisible cost. So in my last relationship, I have all these other women around. I should have said, hey, look, I can't actually have you coming over at 2 a.m. crying about something because that's disrupting my relationship with my partner. And instead I was kind of like, honey, why are you mad at me? She's just a friend and we're just blah, blah. Yeah, we're just drinking wine at 3 a.m. in the jacuzzi. What's the big deal? I don't know, it's an uncertainty variety thing where we're kind of just like, and to my credit, I also have a very high tolerance for that chaos. And I was able to navigate it without it interfering, right? And on her side too. So the other thing to realize is that we have these are about unmet needs, right? So I have unmet needs for certainty because I'm not prioritizing certainty. And then the more I prioritize certainty, the more I sort of give up keeping my options open and having the imaginary freedom of endless variety or whatever it is, which is not even actually freedom at all. It's actually a chore. But, but this kind of glamorized version of that, then I actually surrender into becoming a more complete, full person. Because as a person, I'm not just a new variety. You're a new variety guy. You're an uncertainty guy.
I think I'm the same.
Yeah, probably. And then, but then the more that you have certainty, the more you get married and have kids and run a business. And
I'm definitely uncertainty.
yeah, you seem too. You're probably, and that's what we call it, growth.
Decided to move into the certainty of just saying, because like the stress of having so many options.
No,
and
exactly.
not having, like, being grounded
Well, and it's
in-
called growth, and it's called being a whole person. I mean, it's like we are not just half people, but if we were to stay in our comfort zone of our personality, we'll be half people. I will just be a significance variety person my whole life, and it's not a good look. You see people who have never grown, and they are half a person. By old age, they've completely devalued the other half. They've demonized it. They've made fun of and even bullied people who have the other needs. Like, oh, you're so boring, you and your certainty. Don't you know there's no guarantees? Be an adventurer, or whatever it is, right? So what giving the vocabulary of objective personality to people who already have human design does is it essentially allows them to continue in their human design experiment. It's not going to tell you how to make decisions. It's not going to tell you how the mechanics work, but it gives you a vocabulary for sort of seeing and talking about where it's taking you and what's going on, why you get so triggered, why you get so uncomfortable. Instead of just being like, I feel weird, I can be like, I feel weird because I just made a big commitment. I just bought a house and part of me is freaking out inside, but my sacral said yes. And it's like, oh, now I know why I'm freaking out. But then the certainty person is like, I'm freaking out because I just lost my job and the future horizon is like an unknown open book, to be written, and I don't know what to do. And it's like, it's okay to freak out because your personality is so oriented towards certainty, and yet your inner authority has brought you to a place of uncertainty, and that's good. That's healthy. So the last two I want to mention, and then we'll wrap up, are not in opposites to each other. They're just things that I think are very important and not talked about enough in human design. The first is the need for a growth mindset. Anything with mindset in the title, people in human design seem to take issue with, take umbrage with, at least a lot of them do, because it's mental, it's more supremacy of the mind and using the mind, thinking it can control the life and thinking you have choice and all this stuff. And I debate with Mark Germain about this all the time. And I'll just say, what is learning human design if not changing your mindset? It's changing your awareness, it's learning. What is a growth mindset? A mindset that's always learning. There's a great quote from Confucius, and it's not really very easy to translate because it's almost one of those like pages where you can just say like a version of it would be, it's kind of almost like a pattern that repeats. Oh, hawk's up there. Baby hawk even. Beautiful. Yeah, right there. I don't know if you guys can see it closer, but it's in the tree. So, but anyway, it's, sorry. I'm a variety guy. I'm like, there's a new thing here. This is a new thing.
Really shiny.
If you guys want to see, come over here and look. Come over here and look at it. Come on, connection people. Come on, let's look at it. You see it? Yeah. There it is. That's the hawk. Yeah. That's the hawk. It might have been.
Yes.
So I'll just say this quote from Confucius. It essentially says, leadership without a willingness to learn is tyranny. Education without a willingness to learn is dogmatism. Help without willingness to learn is condescension. Like any good thing you can think of, if you're not willing to learn, turns into a negative opposite. Control, condescension, aggression, hostility, all of these things are the ultimate results of an unwillingness to learn when you perform any helping action for others, trying to help, the best intentions, all that. So the growth mindset to me is a very crucial, very important thing that we do not talk about in human design enough because it has the word mindset in it. And it really is saying that your attitude does make a difference, even the attitude of a willingness to surrender to life, a willingness to learn from life, a willingness to see where the life force energy takes you, an openness to get out of your comfort zone and to give up your addiction to one need to allow another need to emerge, of openness to vulnerability. All of these things are are contained within the concept of growth mindset. And then the last one, the last need that all of us have, so we've gone through 5 needs so far, and we have all of these needs. We all have all of these needs: significance, connection, certainty, uncertainty, growth mindset, learning, right? And then the last need is service. We all need to be of service in some way, to give back and to truly feel that deep soul, spirit, G-center feeling of having given, truly given of ourselves. And that's something that you can't fake, and it's different than the feeling of significance, and it's the difference than the feeling of connection and love and doing for others, and it's different from any of the others. And it's something that is truly being of service and doing what is required and serving the others. So I would just ask each of you in this takeaway to kind of ask yourself which of those needs you've been really good at meeting and which of those needs you haven't, and then to notice when some of those needs come up, and to notice when your strategy and authority brings you to a place where those needs are suddenly present to you in your life. And maybe when you were younger, you thought they weren't that important at all, and now you're realizing they're very important. And that's quite a journey, and I think it's a journey all of us are on, and we can all help each other on. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, that was great. Thank
Thanks so
you.
much. And now let's go to the opening night gala. I'm an uncertainty variety guy. I'm like, let's go, let's party. Let's party.